Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Series, a month-long event celebrating the authors and narrators that bring romance stories to life. Listen along as Viviana, Enchantress of Books, interviews your favorite writers and voices, shares special guest posts, and stay tuned for some special information at the conclusion of the episode.
Hi, everyone. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with my guest, narrator Benjamin Charles. And welcome back to the Audiobook Lovin, Benjamin. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm doing very well. How about you?
So far, so good. I'm talking to you, so everything's great.
Ah, my heart is exploding.
Perfect. Goals set, made, match. So I mentioned that you're back because last year you were part of the Audiobook Lovin Series and shared your top 5 reasons why you love being an audiobook narrator. And I'll include the link to that post within our episode's information. But today we're actually chatting for the first time and getting to know you better. So I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been narrating and how you got started.
Sure. I am 32 years old. I've been in New York City for about 14 years. And I got into the narration business through my best friend and roommate in college, Zachary Weber, who is, famous in the audiobook narration world. And so he got me my first title, which was a Deborah Anastasia book. And that led to me being the title character in another Deborah book called Havoc. And that was in 2018. And then since then, I've kind of been slowly but surely building up my skill sets and relationships and ease in the work, and really falling in love with audiobooks in general, but specifically the romance genre.
Yeah. So thank you, Zach, for bringing Benjamin into our lovely world and our earbuds. And Deborah, thank you for Animal. Thank you. That's how I discovered you, was through Deborah's the Mercy series, and then how that character, which was fascinating. And then he got his own book, and I'm like, oh, I wonder who she's. Oh, yes, she cast Benjamin. So
thank you, Deborah.
Yeah, no, she, I spoke to her, I think it was last year too. And when your name came up, she's like, oh, Benjamin.
It's mutual.
Yeah. So once you've been cast for a title, how do you go about prepping the book? Like, what is your process to prep?
Sure. I think it's a little different depending on the book, but what I like to do is go through all the chapters that I will be reading and scan for names and maybe terms, places that I don't know or that I'm not confident on. So pretty much a basic pronunciation scan. And then also a story scan to see what we're going to be dealing with, and character development scan, and to see how many characters are being played. And sometimes I have a back and forth with the author, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes the author and I really never talk, especially if a producer is the one who reaches out to me for the title. And that's interesting to me, to do an entire book by somebody and not really make quote unquote real contact with them, even though it'd be digital anyway. But the way that I kind of balance that out is the author is sharing so much of themselves with their writing, and I am sharing so much of myself with my voice, and it's like a vulnerable part of me is touching and combining with a vulnerable part of them. And so even if I don't talk to them, I feel like I'm talking to them, it becomes kind of a spiritual dynamic to me.
hmm The authors do say that when they're writing these books, they will put some parts of themselves in it, and
Hmm.
or some of their experience or someone else's that they know experience into it. So it's truly like they're little babies, and so I think
Hmm.
it takes a lot too to trust. I'm like, okay, someone else is reading my book, fine. So
Hmm.
it is definitely an experience, and us listeners to get that full package of the author's story, and then you guys as narrators bringing it to life is wonderful. I think that's one of the reasons why we love audiobooks is we get a little bit more of it in depth from the performance. So,
Hmm.
mhm. So in that process of yours of prepping it, are you also thinking about how the characters are going to sound and giving them their specific tones and accents and things like that?
Sometimes. I think when I first started, I felt kind of overwhelmed by the prospect of plotting out characters and their voices and being consistent with it and figuring out which chapters those characters come back in. And I've heard many more experienced and prolific audiobook narrators talk about their process being just that. And I think, yeah. Maybe in a book where that is absolutely crucial for the listener to follow along for the narrator to do that. Um, but I'm finding, and I actually found this from Zachary, from some of his performances, that the less is more sometimes. Like just a little touch of character does enough to not take the reader out of the story and out of the fact that you really as a narrator are taking these words and putting them into the air for the person who's listening to kind of see the story but also see the words as if they're reading it. So the words to me come first almost before the characterization. So I think like a gentle touch with characterization is where I'm kind of that's a little pocket that I'm in right now, is just to get the essence of a character, but for it to be more subtle than anything else. Um, yeah,
Mhm. No, it's amazing how being subtle sometimes can be overlooked, but it's just
mhm,
that slight little up or down tone or that accent
exactly,
that's just enough to say, "Ooh, he sounds southern,"
exactly.
versus that whole. Sometimes some people get too heavy in their drawl, and I'm going, mm-mm,
You get pulled
mm-mm.
out. You get pulled out of the
Yeah.
story. Yeah.
Yeah. And also sometimes when it's not consistent, because at least if you're reading a book, you can flip back a page or two to figure out who the heck is talking. But
Hmm.
in an audiobook, that rewind is not easy. You're going, oh, fuck, I went all the way to the beginning. Now I have to read the G. Darn, I have to listen to you again. But no, you know? So that's where
Yes,
that it's important as part of that process goes from a listeners to be able to understand who's talking, but not have it be so out there where you're going, dude, no, bring it, dial it down a bit, you know? So I'm glad that you're
exactly.
in that
And
state.
I know. Oh, thank you. Sorry for interrupting, but
Hmm
there are some titles I've done where I absolutely went to the extreme. So if anyone's listening to this and thinking, "But that title, I heard Benjamin Charles on, and he was inconsistent, and he was using a Southern drawl," I think I'm learning from my mistakes.
Oh, trust me. If we look at some of the most prolific and awarded narrators, or those that have been doing it for years, and we go back to book one,
Uh-huh.
we won't stay there very long.
Uh-huh.
We're going, oh, okay, yeah, bye.
Uh-huh.
It's like with any kind of skill sets. I'm a firm believer that we have that learning curve,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that we learn as we go and we improve it just like we hone our skill sets. So yeah, your first
Absolutely.
book, I don't think with anybody's first book is going to be like, oh my God, this is brilliant. It's going to be like, what did I do? No, that's not going to happen again, you know?
Mhm.
So that's good. So if anybody is listening to that book that he mentioned, just finish it and just move on, and that's it. Go grab Deborah's.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. We mentioned a little bit about the accents. And one thing that I've realized and learned, and because it's also me, we are suckers for accents. Is there one
Mm.
accent that you love to perform?
Hmm. Is there one accent that I love to perform? I think uh where my mind goes with that question is the difference between an accent that I love to perform and
Mhm.
an accent that is accurate. Because there are some accents that I love to perform, but if anyone who actually has that accent listened to me, they'd throw me off a cliff. They'd say, "How dare you?" But I still have fun, you know?
Mhm.
So like there are certain
Mhm.
West African accents that I love to perform, but I don't know if that is actually what somebody who is from that place would sound like, you know?
Mhm.
Eh, and I did live in Georgia for a number of years. And when I was in Georgia, like I didn't meet anybody who was really talking like this because I wasn't in the backwoods of Georgia, you know what I mean? I was like 30 minutes north of Atlanta. But I did hear people who had a little bit of drawls. And there's a different kind of Atlanta accent that is southern but also metropolitan.
Mhm.
So it just comes out on certain vowels. Um, and I mean, I'm a sucker for like Cockney, yeah, and RP, like British RP. But again, I don't know that it's
Mhm.
accurate, but
Mm.
it's fun.
Yeah.
uh, but some of these are things that, of course, if I were to audition for a part that required it, I would do a deep dive. And I did go to drama school, and we had years of speech training and the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet training, and accent work. I don't think we did enough accent work, um, but I have tools and resources to like do these things professionally. I just haven't.
Well, I think that we all like again goes back to that whole like learning thing, but also enough a slate is just to give a hint is enough.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, that the question was would you like to perform, not if you were accurate though, but that's good.
Thank you. So to answer your question, I do. I do. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Now I know my listeners are probably like, ask him if he's ever used it for to his advantage.
I'll never tell.
Exactly. But so when it comes down to the performance, and you were saying how if it's needed, have you had any accent work that has been needed that was like really hard for you that you had to go like, wow, never again, or mm-mm.
Um, e- I yes, yes. I did a book um earlier this year, and I had to. Oh boy, it was a very specific Southern accent,
Mhm.
and I really actually worked on it. But when it was one that I was doing in an actual studio rather than at home. And I think that if I had done it at home, I would have stopped and listened and thought, okay, no, I gotta do some more work on
Mm,
this. But because I was already there and there was an engineer, we were under time. I realized I was underprepared with that accent, and that there was nothing to do except just do it, just do
mm,
what I could do, and that was a learning moment for me because I felt so um sheepish. Like all my creative impulses were really shut down because I was in my head, because I felt like, oh, I haven't actually prepared enough for this, and I respect the work of these writers, and they deserve for the performances to be excellent. And so I felt just kind of ashamed, and that wasn't fun.
mm,
And I think you can sense when someone's not having fun, and then it's not fun. So the whole thing felt a kind of like a big learning moment of, if you're gonna do this, then do it. So I'm never gonna be in that position again, I can tell you that.
yeah, but again, learning curve, you know.
Yes, yes, all good things, all good things. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
When it comes down to the styles of narrations, we have duet, dual, solos. Do you prefer a style of narrating when it comes down to the POVs?
I like them all for different reasons. I think that the heavy lifting of a solo is so satisfying and gratifying when you get to the end of it, and it really becomes kind of your baby. It's your story, and I love the give and take
Hmm.
of the duo and the duet, and how exciting it is to tell a story with someone else who's not there, and then listen to it, and have the experience of the other side of your story, you know?
Hmm.
Um, I think that's really, really, really special.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think that duet is becoming more and more popular because of that give and take of the narrators have in those ducks, especially when it's bantering, because you can only
Mhm.
interrupt yourself for so much.
Well, in this pandemic, I live alone. And so I feel like I've been interrupting myself. I've been doing all the things you would do with someone else. I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna wait for someone else to be here. I'm gonna live. So stop myself mid sentence and just
And just, yeah, reply. It's like, why
yeah,
is the
reply.
laundry still on the floor? Because I didn't freaking feel like doing it right now.
Why don't you get off my back? It's impossible to live with you. Quite right.
Yes, it's kind of accurate. Um, is what is your favorite subgenre of romance to perform?
That's my favorite subgenre
Yeah.
of romance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have such admiration and awe for the plot and character development of most of the titles that I've had the pleasure of recording. And so I know that this is kind of not answering your question, but it's just that these I think I came into this work with an idea, a preconceived idea of what romance was. And with almost all of the titles that I've done, the kind of explicit sex scenes are last for like a couple pages max in a maybe 300 page manuscript. And so mostly it's extremely nuanced and truthful and vulnerable character development and plot development. And um, I've been able to play a lot of people who had hard knocks growing up in their lives, and that to me as an actor is what I'm here to do. Like that's actually worth the price of admission for me. The people who um, you can tell it cost the writer something to write these people
Mm-hmm.
and their stories, and it costs me to give life to them, and that cost feels life affirming to me actually. Like and so any novel that I can do, um where the characters and the situations and the plot, and of course the relationships are expertly crafted and fine-tuned and are real people who have hurt and who are deciding to open themselves up to love after being hurt, whether they were hurt by love or just hurt by life.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is something that never gets old.
Yeah. Well, romance is an umbrella term. I like to describe it as with the subgenres being underneath of the umbrella. And those are, your paranormal and your contemporary, which you've done a
Ah,
lot of contemporary romance.
yeah.
But like those historical paranormals, and then you have those
Ah,
fantasies
ah,
and then there's a bunch of different things. And then you add the tropes to it, the enemies to lovers and all that fun stuff.
ah.
So ever wanted to be a vampire or werewolf?
Learning. There was a teachable moment and you took it. So thank you. Thank you for teaching me. Have I ever wanted to be a werewolf or
Or vampire.
vampire? Totes. Bring it on. I'm available. Cast me for your for your werewolf and vampire
Hmm.
uh, hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's like the MC motorcycle gangs. I mean, there's just so many
Mm,
things out there that can pique people's interest, and there's just for you to pick from. And so that's
mm,
that's always a fun question for me because of all that availability that's out
mm.
there. But yeah, that like the whole PNR thing for paranormal romance where
Hmm.
shifters, vampires, bears, oh my. Um
I feel like I've just begun.
mhm.
Truly, I feel
Yeah.
really humbled by that because you're right that most of the work I've done has been contemporary. Um, and I'm so excited to branch out and find out about the worlds that I don't even know about yet, because
Hmm.
you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. So you have only recently started, and it's been a good year and a half, almost two, that you've been more engrossed in the romance genre per se.
Hmm.
And knowing that there's all these different ones, is there something that you're like excited or wanting to do in a genre that you haven't done yet, that you're like on a bucket list?
I mean, now that you've put the vampire and werewolf, you've
Yes.
planted the seeds of those two. I'm like, let's
Hmm.
do those.
Yeah. Oh, you would be a perfect fit. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so
Yes, perfect. Yeah, see,
much.
now we have a whispering Benjamin Charles there, and yeah. What is your favorite type of character to play? You know how we have the sweet guy, the alpha
Hmm.
guy, all that
Hmm.
stuff. Do you have a preference or a favorite kind to play?
Hmm. Well, kind of what I was saying before, or it's in conversation with what I said before, which is that I like um, complicated, nuanced, and complex characters. And I think that the argument could be made that um, as the voiceover artist, I can do that with whatever is on the page. That's kind of like, that's my role, that's my job,
Mm-hmm.
is to make any character complex and nuanced. But I love the ones who on the page are already complex, nuanced. Um, I mean, this is maybe I shouldn't say this because I'm popping a bubble for my readers, but like I've never been in a relationship. I've never been in a relationship. I've never been in a long-term relationship. Let me say that. I have nothing against it. I want it. I'm opening myself up to the universe for it, but so most of these books are walking me through what it's like to be in a long-term relationship, or being a really passionate relationship, and I feel like I'm living vicariously through them, whether it's the charmer, the all American, or it's the kid who grew up in and out of orphanages and foster homes, who's misunderstood, or the one who has had run-ins with the government, the police, uh, authoritarian structures. I think that all of them teach me. Every single one of them teach me. But I do. I mean, it's fun to play someone who's just kind of fun, uh, especially with how dark the world has been. Sometimes playing characters who are severely depressed doesn't help my own depression. But I like every single one of them. I know this is a diplomatic response, but like, I think every character that I get to kind of embody teaches me more about myself and teaches me more about other people. So it increases my empathy, um, which I think is essential.
You said about bursting bubbles. No, mm-mm. As soon as they hear that part, you're gonna hear all the way across the world. Aw. And volunteers.
Great.
I pay tributes.
Success.
Well, that's not usually a question I do ask, because I don't isn't that it's not meant for prying or anything, but in romance, there's a lot of things that we all learn about things that we might like and have discovered that we didn't know we liked and discovered,
Mm,
as well as even maybe how to have open lines of communication. And
mm.
I know that you're relatively also new to romance itself. Have you picked up any new, like, oh, okay, that works. I see how that could work, kind of a thing when it
Mhm,
comes down to relationships?
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you named it. I think you named one of the primary parts of it. I mean
Mm-hmm.
open channels of communication, like kind of radical transparency in communication with your lover, but also your loved one.
Mm-hmm.
your environment, anybody that you come into contact with. I think that that's a lesson that can be that I've learned from these books that can be applied to literally every relationship
Mm-hmm.
that you have with another human being and with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and kind of, I'm going to make this one plug here, I think, because this month, May, is National Mental Health Awareness Month,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I'm quite passionate about. I've lost a family member to suicide, and I've navigated my own uh, journey with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder, and I've been a crisis counselor with this organization called the Crisis Text Line that you can just text into at 741-741 if you're ever feeling like you can't handle what's on your plate. Um, and so mental health is something that's very important to me and that I'm passionate about. And many of the stories that I've read, that I've seen so clearly in how characters who thought that there were parts of their experience that they could not share, how that hurt them. And most of them, in the end, their freedom came by sharing those parts of themselves that they didn't really love or accept or think were acceptable or lovable with their loved one. And that being the kind of um, point at which things open up around and the love is able to really thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's a lesson that I love, that I am learning again every time I read a new script, and it keeps on driving it home that open up, open up,
Mm-hmm.
open up, open up. When it feels uncomfortable, lean in, don't back away, lean in. When you're talking about your preferences um in the bedroom, like talk
Mm-hmm.
about it, like lean into the what feels unsafe, so long as it's consensual. And when I say unsafe, I mean unsafe because it's been unexplored,
Mm-hmm.
um not because it's dangerous to you or your partner. But that to me is awesome. It's
Mm-hmm.
awesome, and something that I did not know I was going to learn by doing this work.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's this genre has so much different conversations of opportunities from the they've brought in the whole like sexuality and making sure that it's okay to talk about the things that you like and want in a relationship, to those moments too where I'm reading or listening to a book and I'm going to throw you across the room because if you would have just told him.
Exactly. Like hundreds of like hours worth of drama and struggle that could have been avoided if you just told the truth
I
about how you
know.
felt.
Exactly. I mean, like, and it becomes like years later afterwards, and it was just a misunderstanding. And I'm going, I see, I told you. All I did was just tell her, but no.
You should have
60
come to
girlfriends later.
Viviana. She would have figured it all out for you.
No, 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 no. I'm still learning. Because it's hard though. I think that putting yourself in a vulnerable position, whether it's emotionally or physically or sexually, is very difficult. And also
Absolutely.
even mental. It's very, very difficult to put yourself in such a vulnerable place for possible rejection and not mutual response in how you feel, but knowing and
Yes.
learning that it's okay to put yourself out there, and it's okay that yeah, it may not work out with this one individual, but go to the next one, live your life, move
Mm,
on, learn, and continue to
mm.
be your truest self is
And
important.
to allow yourself to, absolutely, everything, absolutely, and to allow yourself to, feel the hits, to
Mm-hmm.
feel what you're feeling, like to feel the disappointment after you put yourself out there and are rejected, and to kind of nurse your sensitive heart,
Mm-hmm.
and then go back out there with a
Mm-hmm.
with an open heart that believes that love is possible, you know.
Mm-hmm.
um Absolutely.
Yeah. And that love looks differently for everything. I think also too, society has
Come on.
um
Yes.
completely raised us to believe in, the fairy tale Disney version of the either the guy, saving the girl kind of a thing, or that it has to be this specific way. Like by the time you're 22, this, and then by the time you're 30, you're having the kids, and by that
Mm,
40s
mm.
and stuff. And
Mhm.
it's not like that in real life, and it's okay. So even at 32 with no previous long-term relationships, you will find someone
Wow.
that will
Wow.
be
Wow. I feel seen. Yeah.
and that it's okay, and that doesn't make it any weird. I mean, we've had books where the let's see, I think there was one where the guy was the virgin and he was still in his 30s and was
Mhm.
just waiting, and then we had the opposite too, where the girl's been the virgin and just again waiting for the right opportunity and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. And the importance of also not rushing it, and regardless of what the
Mm.
capacity is, because you don't ever want to force it or be put in a
Yeah.
situation where you're just there for the sake of it, because that's not fun. But yeah, no,
An idea.
mm-hmm,
Mhm. Sorry. I just an idea that I've heard over and over again throughout my life is to trust the timing of your life,
mm,
which is, I think, is simple but really powerful. To
mm-hmm,
just trust the timing of your life.
yeah,
To let all of the mass media um, messaging just kind of go by the wayside, fall by the wayside, and to not compare yourself to anybody else's
mm-hmm,
journey.
yeah,
Um, mhm,
that's important too. The other thing too, that, and you mentioned it, and regarding like the mental health, I think a lot of things in romance are now starting to be less taboo, including the importance of mental health, the self-care, that it's okay
mhm,
to have these conversations
mhm,
of, I am depressed and I'm not feeling well, and today is a low day. And how do
mhm,
you help me as my
mhm,
partner stay safe and stay here and still be there for me without trying to
mhm,
fix me,
mhm,
because you're not broken, you just have a situation
mhm.
in your life. And I think more and more authors are
Yes.
tackling that, and that's important too.
Mhm.
Hmm. But yeah.
And I hear some people say, like, give percentages of people who have experienced or are navigating. I don't love saying struggling with, because I feel
Hmm.
like that word is packed, and it's not, it's not always a struggle. Sometimes it's just like a cohabitation with the situation or a condition, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
in your body, it feels like you're cohabitating with a certain kind of energy. um, and I want to try to soften out, massage the stigma around this. But when people say this percentage of people have been dealing with mental health, I think every single person who has a, a brain
Hmm.
has navigated mental health, just like every single person that has a body has navigated physical health. So I think that those percentages are misleading it, or like misnomers. I think every single human being who has a mind and has a heart has interacted with some sort of mental health situation,
Hmm.
whether or not they could name it, whether or not they felt like they had the support to acknowledge it and tend to it. I think that, so I think if we can start thinking of mental health like we think of physical health, instead of this, oh, that's something that other people deal with. I think every single human being deals with mental health. And the more we can normalize that, the the more freedom we will have to do exactly what you said, to make space for other people in our lives that we love, who are navigating lows or highs that feel vulnerable and scary and overwhelming.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but also just to be able to have the conversation on it too, because it's such a taboo subject. And there's also even culturally some, I mean, my background is
Mm,
Latin, and a lot of the Latin communities don't believe in psychologists, or
of course.
medication
Yeah.
for
Yes.
things. Just get over it. And growing up in that situation
Uh-huh.
where then now you're as an adult trying to figure out, oh, that's what I have. Depression, good to know. That's what it was, anxiety. I was just
Hmm.
not dealing with it. Okay, great. But
Absolutely.
yeah, so dealing and having these subjects and having these characters that we fall in love with and that you guys voice have these, day-to-day things that they have to deal with. And that's part of them. And we end up falling in love with that person. That means we fall in love with
Mm,
everything, the good and the bad,
mm.
including when they leave their shoes everywhere instead of in the closet, or the toilet seat up and not down. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean,
It adds up.
up. It does. It adds up. But it's just one of those things where it's part of the person and not something that can be fixed or gotten over with. And I think that that's
Hmm.
something that sometimes people tend to forget when it comes down to mental illness. It's part of the person and it's not an easy fix.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's important to me too. I've lost people as well. So,
Mm.
glad that we talked on that, especially again with romance. It is such a genre that allows for open dialogue regarding sexuality to kink to different styles of
Mm.
relationship, from monogamy to polyamorous. I mean,
Mm.
there's just so many options.
Hmm.
And you're going,
Hmm.
ooh, make it
Endless.
yeah. We've been working a lot, I think, more this year than previous years because of the way that our world has been this year with COVID. But when you're not working, what do you do for fun?
I have a easy answer to that, which is run. I've
Ah,
gotten so deep into running over the last year,
mm-hmm.
and it is such a regulator for the mind and body, which I think every single one of us who has been affected by the pandemic, which is every single one of us,
Mm-hmm.
could benefit from. And you get to be out in nature, just outside, period. And I find that running is such a perfect like encapsulation of the experience of having a limiting belief and then busting through it. So, and that can be applied to the rest of your life. Like running makes me feel like a superhero, even when I'm not doing anything impressive. I think just the act of going outside and deciding to run is an act of inspiration that I can then bring to anything else I have to do in the day. Um, and I love running before I do a book because also, real talk, when you're recording a book, an audiobook, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I'm a recovering perfectionist. And so when you mispronounce that schwa, or you mispronounce that vowel sound. And so you have to do it again. And to, and you're reading a lot of words, you're reading tens of thousands of words. And so you're going to make mistakes even if you prepared within an inch of your life. You're going to make mistakes. You're human. You're reading in real time, and you're doing a lot of work to make the story come alive for the listener and for the reader, and for not the reader, for the writer, and for the listener, and for yourself. And so easing into the reality that you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and that does not mean that you're bad. That does not mean that you're wasting time. That doesn't mean anything except for the fact that you're human, and that's glorious. That's glorious, being human, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
going out and running in the morning, and sometimes feeling like I don't have enough energy to do what I set out for myself to do, and being okay with that, or running out in the morning and thinking I'm going to run a certain distance, and then getting this wind of energy and just going further and thinking, wow, I could do anything, whatever it is. It's very meditative to me,
Mm-hmm.
running. And I've become part of a number of running communities in Brooklyn, and they are so loving. Just like the audiobook, the romance listeners are such a loving community of people. I find that these runners are such a loving community of people, and none of them are competing. None of them are trying to get to the Olympics. Everyone just loves up on everyone else, wherever they are in their physical health journey. Um, Even if you can only run a mile, not only, even if you feel like you can run a mile and that's a feat for you, or if you feel like you're running a marathon and that's a feat for you, everything in between, everyone is so accepting and so loving and so supportive of each other. So that is what I've been doing with my quote unquote downtime, but it's now become like running time rather than downtime. But that's become a real passion of mine over the last year, is running in community with people.
That's great. I usually try to run away, but
Well,
I
that
get
was me
the
before.
yeah. When I'm leaving the door, they're like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm running away." They're like, "When are you coming back?" I go, "I'm not." Where are you gonna go? I don't know. Just not here. But no, yeah, no, running, being outdoors, I think it's important. We're so enclosed right now because of everything.
Yes.
We kind of like, ooh, outside, yay.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. Have not encountered that one as a things to do for fun, except for one or two other people. But they were like, one of them loved to do it, but they were a runner, so they did marathons and triathlons and things like that. And my God, the energy that was there. Sometimes I'm going, can you bottle that up for me? Because I drag it. But I can see, yeah, but I can see how it's important. And we all have our thing, but running is a good one to have. I will be borrowing your recovering perfectionist term and utilizing that for my own good, because it's not a good trait to have in a lot of things, but you're working on it. So you're recovering perfectionist. I'm going to borrow that. I might even make it into a graphic. You touched on it a little bit now, but you also mentioned it last year when you did your top 5 as to why you love being a narrator, was the romance community. And what aspects of the audiobook community has surprised you?
Surprised me. I think I'm continually humbled by the active participation and acceptance, the kind of radical acceptance of everyone there, the devotion, the willingness to explore things that are unknown, and then celebrate the exploration, just the kindness too. Everyone, I've only encountered kind people. I mean, and that's from the producers to the casting to the writers to the listeners to you, to like, it's just so kind. Everyone here is so kind, and that's pretty life changing. I think as a mental paradigm to just live inside of kindness and to go into spaces that don't seem very kind, and to be kind of an ambassador of kindness in those spaces because of um, how thoroughly kind this space is, and how many different people are coming from many different backgrounds and situations that I know are not easy, and are making the conscious choice to be kind. I love that. So that is what I'm addicted. I have no plans on ever leaving this community because of how kind it is.
Aw, not like you had a choice to go anywhere, honey.
That's true.
We like you, we keep you. No, it is true. It's such a welcoming, and I think it comes from the base of, we all have one thing in common for sure. Is we all love romance. And then there's the additional layers of whether we love the audiobooks in romance, or if we like a specific genre, or there's the narratives that we love, and it just continues to build. And that community tends to then have different conversations about the cookies that someone makes or this and that. And so it becomes, you know, a really loving community that's there for each other on the good and the bad, but also the way that we recommend, because we're devouring the books. And when we find someone new and they get that question like, oh, who should I listen to? We're like, how much time do you have? And then it becomes like a questionnaire. Are you into this or that more? Have you heard this, or do you prefer that? You know, and it's and then we start naming the names, and they're going, oh my God, I never knew there were so many narrators. I'm like, who wouldn't take it to Benjamin? You know, or like when their names come up to it. It's such a great community, and to be able to have these conversations. And they also get us. That's the other thing too. They get you guys as narrators and the job and what it takes, and they get the listeners that love it. If we have this kind of conversation with people that are not into the books, we get looked at really weird. Like, what do you mean you like this guy named Benjamin and you've never met him in person? Like his voice. Yeah, so it becomes a little awkward outside of the world, but understand. I know they don't get it. Understand. When he says your name. Yeah. Well, we've had converters. We've had those that are like, nah, I'd never. And I'm like, just listen. And then they come back really shyly. What's next? And I'm like, we've won another one. Welcome to the world of audiobooks. And here we go.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, or those that are into it, but not as much. And then it clicks and they like, oh, I get it. And I'm like, the character have your name? And they're going, yeah, he said my name. And I'm like, okay. Because that's a thing, when it comes down to romance. But yeah, no, it's a great community for sure. The other thing that you mentioned in that we learned a lot even about those 5 things is that you had not originally read adult romance up until you started narrating, and that you've actually had
That's right.
collection of books by your bedside there to read. But are you reading only the ones that you're narrating, or are you actively reading outside of quote unquote work?
Well, I have been reading the ones that I'm narrating, and I have a couple that have nothing to do with work, but that I want to get to. And no, I cannot name them right now, / will not name them right now, but I do have.
I wasn't going to put you on the spot, dude.
But yes, the answer is yes. I have books that aren't books that I'm reading professionally that I'm reading. I mean, the genre is interesting to me now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, if you ever need any recommendations, you know who to go to.
Thank you so much.
Go on your Facebook page and just say, so hey, I'm in the mood for, I don't know, XYZ kind of romance. Right. What do you suggest? Right. And they will flock to answer.
They will flock. Well, speaking of social media,
yeah,
I have been working on an Instagram for like a little while. That's back to the recovering perfectionist thing. I'm like, I don't want it to go live until I really have it figured out. And I'm navigating like posts that have snippets from books that I've done, but wondering what I want the graphics to be for those, and it should be for the book title. But I also want to give a little bit of like who I am for listeners and for the audience. And so trying to curate all of that and feeling overwhelmed and just not paying attention to it for a week and then coming back to it and saying, I need to do this. I really want to do this because I really want to engage with the community in a different way than on Facebook. And so I guess that's just me saying, keep an eye out for an Instagram presence to materialize within the next month.
Awesome. And remember we were talking off air before about how I'm like the girl that thinks about things and plans and the whole business side of things, and I just had like ideas pop up of options. So I will get with you afterwards because it's some fun stuff. So yay. Yes. Yeah. But you know what you could do? Now this is how it brings me back to this question. One of the things that we do love knowing from from the narrator's perspective is getting to know you guys a little bit better, but obviously not being intrusive, because that's a big no-no in our community. Is things like, you mentioned that you were a snack monster. So what are some of your favorite snacks and things that you can also post on your Instagram?
Yes. Oh, thank you. Look at that. Look at you.
Yeah.
Oh,
today's snack of the day.
Snack of the day. Well, I'm kind of sometimes a health nut. So I like nuts. I like almonds. I go between, I think like my go-to snack is salted roasted almonds with raisins. And like really old school basic, right? Cool. And I like certain fruits from my snacks. I like oranges. I've taken to cutting up oranges and doing orange slices, mandarin oranges, tangerines. Love bananas, chowing down a banana. I love the kind of it's a throwback to being young. What is it called? Like ants on a log with the celery stick and peanut butter and the raisins. So most of my snacks like to be fruit or vegetable based. I know, wow. But there's also sometimes I love cookies, but I don't know that I consider cookies to be snacks. Cookies are like desserts. I think cookies are their own. They're desserts, sure, but also cookies are just cookies. And I love cookies. I'm a cookie monster, but I'm also a snack monster. And for snacks, I like the veggies and the fruits, and sometimes a taste of sweet, like a peanut butter. Yeah, I don't love candy though. I don't love like mass produced candy.
Okay. See, but those are things too, again, that people getting common and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I like the bananas, or I like this, or like me, I have a thing with texture. So
Ooh.
I am very it's good. It's so bad though. Like I love the flavor of strawberries and bananas, but the textures I can't. So in a blender they
Heard.
go. In a blender they go. And now I have a banana strawberry shake that I have in there. And then why not add some chocolate chips in there? You're good. And that's how I
Yes.
have it.
I see you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And it's a lot. It's just one of those because of the texture. And even then, like even the vegetables, I love carrots, but I like them cooked. I have yet to do it raw from a snack
Mm-hmm.
perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
seeing you guys share some of this stuff, it's like, oh, me too, or oh, that looks good. I should try it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there you go.
Well, you told me before that you're a chef extraordinaire,
I,
and
I said chef. I did not add the other part, but thank you.
well, you are extraordinary across the board, so it goes without saying. But a part of that is also I've been learning more during the pandemic about cooking
Mm-hmm.
for myself, and I it's like such a world, such a huge world. I mean, just like the genres,
Mm-hmm.
it's such a huge world that I did not know I knew so little about. And
Mm-hmm.
the more I know, the more I don't know, and which is exciting to me. And like roasted vegetables, you were just talking about cooked carrots, and I think roasted vegetables are
Mm-hmm.
so game changing. Like
Yes.
literally all you have to do is take these veggies that are so kind of banal and so boring or so whatever. You have bad memories from childhood of being forced to eat and stuff, and then just douse them in olive oil, put some salt on them, and then put them in the oven
Mm-hmm.
for however long at whatever temperature. And then it's like a whole new world of flavor and texture and heat and a nuanced experience for your mouth. It's been revolutionary for me. I'm like, what, what? And truly, you don't have to have any kind of skill or any kind of innate talent for any kind of anything. Just olive oil and salt and heat, and you're done. And a nasty carrot turns into something delicious that's
Yes.
almost like caramelized. It's ridiculous, or maybe it's not ridiculous. Maybe it's magic and marvelous. But so
It's
yes, veggies
both.
are cool.
Yeah, both. Do you like potatoes?
I like potato. Okay, okay, we can talk. All right. So potatoes, I do
Uh,
like. I didn't grow up liking potatoes, but I've discovered this recipe or
mm-hmm.
this technique, I guess, of chopping up the russet potato or the purple potato or the sweet potato. Not so much with the sweet potato, but with the starchier potatoes
Mm-hmm.
and cutting them and cubing them and then boiling them for just a little bit and then roasting them. And then they almost become like taters. They
Yeah.
get really crispy on the outside, and that's been again game changing for me. And then I love sweet potatoes. I just love sweet potatoes. You can bake a sweet potato, you can make the fries, you can roast it, you can make mashed sweet potatoes. I don't know. I love yams. What
Nice.
about you?
I love potatoes. But I was gonna say, so I'm gonna send you the recipe for. I have an herb salt that includes garlic, basil, parsley, and then sea salt. And when you
Yes.
blend all that stuff together, and then when you add those to the potatoes, so like potatoes, you could any kind roasted, or either for French fries or any kind that you want to make, and then you melt some butter, add the potatoes to the butter, and then put that herb salt on it, and then put it in the oven to bake, and it gives you a bit of everything in one bite, and it's so good. And then with the leftover potatoes that you may not want to use them all at once kind of a thing, you can actually just mash the rest of those up, and then you have mashed potatoes the next day like that, roasted mashed
Mm,
potatoes.
mm.
So with the herb salt. So I'll send you the recipe. It's and it lasts for a while, so you can do a bit of a batch and it lasts. But you can also use that herb salt for chicken, where you just oil the chicken up and put it on the skin, and then just stick it in the oven.
Well, you just changed my life. So thank you. Thank you so much.
All over herb salts. Yes. I will send you the recipe. It's so good. And you can use them for like breakfast potatoes or like when you're having a steak with potatoes. So yeah. And you can again, it's great.
Très magnifique. Très magnifique. Mm.
Yeah, people are gonna ask me for that clip right there. Thanks. Yeah. If you were not a narrator, what would you be career-wise?
If I was not a narrator, what would I be?
Mm-hmm.
I think that I've been really entertaining this as because entertaining this thought during the pandemic, living alone, lots of things being shut down. The work wasn't necessarily steady. So also thinking about what am I doing with my life? I deeply entertained the idea of going to school for photojournalism,
Hmm.
because I am quite socially minded, and I won't label myself an activist because there are people who actually spend their entire lives devoted to activism, and
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done that, and I respect them. And so I'll say like I'm a I'm someone who has activist inclinations, and social inequities and injustices aren't just things that can pass in and out of my mind and my heart. They stay there. And so I think, but I love words. I'd love to be a journalist as well, like a word journalist,
Mm-hmm.
word journalist, because I'm literate. But like not like a written word journalist. But I think that there is something, just like there is something so powerful, and we've been talking about this without talking about it, with
Mm-hmm.
the human voice. So there's something so intimate and so human and so communicative, and live about the human voice, where you can feel like you know somebody just by listening to them, or you feel like you really have a deep relationship with them, because you do a deep, like, energetic relationship with someone when you're listening to their voice. And I also think that images, and to me, I'm thinking not moving images, but still images, that whole adage, like a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think like sure, but what I take away from that idea is that a picture is so communicative. A picture is so communicative and can be so intimate and so vulnerable and so affirming. To me, the meaning of life is witnessing and being witnessed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with a photo, a powerful photo, you can feel that you are being witnessed and that you are witnessing. Um, and if that kind of power is in service of, um, activism, or making good what has gone wrong societally, then I think that that would be a really worthwhile, use of a human life, to be a photojournalist. So I'd want to be a photojournalist who was dealing with maybe humanitarian issues, abroad, or domestically. Um, that's something I've really been thinking about a lot.
Wow. Okay. No, it's because we don't longer see that so much anymore. We see the
No.
videos because of people on, TikTok or stuff like that, or on, any of the social media platforms of things happening. But it was long ago back in, and I, read books in history, like the Vietnam War, the
Mhm,
photographers that were there
mhm,
and how they
mhm,
were taking pictures of the soldiers, taking
mhm,
their boots off
mhm,
because they had just walked through water, and
mhm.
the faces, and even during some of the other things, and that we have, hunger issues and mistreatment of women in other countries, and how those are being footage, the look in the person's eyes that you grab, it's like part of that
Yes,
moment, part of that soul, part of that situation. And
yes.
it's very impactful and very NPR, because that's it. But people think that automatically, like, oh, that's an NPR kind of a thing to do nowadays, because it almost seems like a lost art in
Mhm,
that humanizing of the situation and taking that photograph. Like, I think
mhm.
I took out my Nikon that is actually old fashioned film. And people were like, what's
Wait, wait, wait,
that?
wait, wait, wait. Me too, though. I have an
Huh?
FG20. I have a
Nice.
Nikon FG20 35 millimeter. Talk to me
Nice.
about yours.
I haven't touched her in a long, long time. She's feeling neglected,
That's fair.
and that's mad. But I have a Nikon and a Canon,
Mm.
and it's some of the things that I've always wanted. I'm still gonna do it because I want to do it. Is learn how to make the photos like in a black room, in a dark room.
Yes.
As because that's just a whole part of the process, and I didn't get to that in the classes that I was taking for photography when I was in college back in the day, but I still love it. And this finding the right angle and finding those intimate moments was always for me like that's the photo. When people don't know that they're being like they're looking at them and they're just in that element.
Mm-hmm.
So it's truly an interesting moment. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish that growing up they would say that stuff in school when you have the conversation about what do you want to be when you grow up.
Mm-hmm.
um, they don't really talk about audiobook narrators and producing of audiobooks or even marketing of audiobooks, but also things like photography, how like hello book cover models,
Mm-hmm.
photography, but also the other day I was like there's actually an official gig for dog photography, like when the dogs are running around. And I know, right? It's like they're running around. I see, and I'm going, oh, puppies. I can get paid to do this. Shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I think that would definitely balance your more in-depth photography if on the weekends you like puppies.
Puppies. Yes, absolutely. Puppies and like balloons and things.
Yes, exactly. That look of on when the little one has the I'm about to touch the cake
Oh yeah.
because it's their birthday. Oh, those
Yes.
things like that are so memorable. But yeah, it's yeah, we'll have to talk about that stuff later. And also, hello, things for your Instagram. Anyways,
Mm. Mm.
well, here talking about the dogs and the pets and stuff like that before. If you could have any animal as a pet,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be and why?
It's a Shiba Inu for me. It's a Shiba
And that was
Inu for me.
quick.
Yep. That's at the forefront of my mind. So that's going to happen. Consider
Mhm,
that manifest. Consider that something made manifest. Consider
mhm,
that something
mhm,
made manifest. Yep. And why? Because I have a absolute soul connection with the Shiba Inu. Every single one that I've come across on the street has stopped in their tracks and looked at me, no matter what they're doing, no matter what their owner is doing. And I'm like, okay, I think I might have been a Shiba Inu in a previous life. And there's this moment of recognition, and my
mhm.
heart flutters at them. And
Hmm.
I think they are so beautiful and and um loyal and independent. I truly think that if I were an animal, I'd be a Shiba Inu. That's all.
Okay.
And that does not mean calling myself beautiful. That I
No,
just
it
mean that I
didn't
am
even cross
loyal
my
and
mind.
I
I
they
did think
also
about
are
the
like
loyalty.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
but
boy.
yeah, yeah. It's I like asking that question for various reasons, but it's always like there's from a psychologist perspective too. It's one of those like, okay, are they going to go with something that we traditional, maybe more domesticated? Like I like to be
Hmm.
a type of a cat that's or a dog, and then there's some that would also bust out with like I want a Black Panther tiger, or bear and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that because they're like
Flamingo.
yes and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay. So it's always where the mind goes. But that's a pretty breed. That's a very nice.
Hmm.
I think all dogs are great in
Hmm.
they have an innocent soul per
Hmm.
se. But yeah, I'm gonna have to look that one up because I have it in my head of what they look like, but I'm gonna like put it in the post there so other people in case they don't know what that looks like. Now you mentioned that you live in New York, and if you
Yes.
could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Oh boy. Okay. If I could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why? I I I I studied abroad in Amsterdam in 2009 when I was in uni, and that was the most magical place I had and have ever been. So I want to go to there. I want to go to Amsterdam because of the magic that it contained at that part of that time in my life. And I know that some of that magic was um, was that it was the first time I had been to Europe, or I'd been kind of out of the country other than in the Caribbean. And that was magical to me at the time. I was also what, like 20, and so everything was kind of magical and terrible at the same time. So, and I was studying theater, experimental theater. So everything was like really sensory, sense, like everything was heightened sense
Mm.
wise. And the people I was with, it was a small group of people, and we were all really committed artists, and we partied hard and worked harder, and it was an amazing time. But I do think that going back there without those people and without doing that stuff would still be really amazing. The nature, the food, the canals, the bike culture,
Mhm.
the weed, uh,
The
the
history,
the
the old, all
history,
that
the
old stuff. Yeah, yeah.
architecture. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
The baklava is really good.
Mhm. Yeah.
And yeah, I think I have many answers to that question, because
Okay.
that's the one that's been at the forefront of my mind. But also, I would love to be um, near family, and my family isn't in New York, so like wherever my family is, I kind of would
Mhm.
like to be. I've been to France a few times because one of my closest friends lives in Lyon, and so I've been there once a year, every year since 2017, and then
Wow.
didn't go last year, obviously because of the pandemic, but would like to go again later this year. And so I'm falling in love with Lyon and with France. Um, and then there are just a lot of places I haven't been that I'd love to go. I'd love to go to Mumbai, India. I'd love to go to Senegal. I'd love to go to Madagascar. I mean, I'd love to go everywhere. There's no place that I really don't want to go to in the world. And every single place has a reason to go to it. Um, yep,
Got it. I wish one of my friends lived somewhere else that I can go visit them and use that as an excuse to travel.
I am fully aware of the privilege and the gift of having a loved one that lives someplace else, that where you can,
Yeah.
stay with them, and they can show you around, and you can stay
Mhm.
for a long time because you're not
Yeah.
having to get a hotel or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, because I have family that live like in Texas and Connecticut and stuff like that. So I've done that, but never abroad. So I need to
Mm,
find that friend that lives abroad that I can say I'm gonna go visit them, and that's why I'm going.
that's right. Well, my like 10-15 year plan is to get property in France. And so once that happens, you are more than welcome.
Perfect. Well, maybe by then I've done some more traveling in that area, and I can say, "Hey, I know a great spot for you to buy that house."
That's exactly right.
So,
That's what I'm betting on.
yes, perfect. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I want to knock on your door when I go to New York again. Been there one time, and I was 19 with $50 in my pocket for an entire week. God, I made that go a long time. So I want to go back
Mm,
now and have some more fun in there and just check out some of the plays. I love the theater, and just hang out
mm,
and get some good pizza because pizza's good there. I'm not high maintenance at all.
mm. You're
Yeah.
dancing through life.
Yeah, you have to, otherwise it's boring. Um,
That's right.
yeah. If you could be any Disney character, who would you be?
Um, I'd probably be one of the um what are they called? Like one of the chorus members in Hercules. One
Oh,
of the
what
are they
is,
like, they're not sprites, but
was it the
what's the
Muses
name?
or was it the
Muses, that's right. Yeah,
yeah,
I'd be one of the muses
yeah.
in Hercules, absolutely. Yep.
That's cool.
Easy.
That was an easy
What
one,
about
yeah.
you?
Oh, I would probably be someone like Merida from Brave. Just riding around,
Sure,
talking to the fairies, throwing an arrow bow at someone that pisses me off. And I already have the
absolutely.
redhead attitude, even though I don't have red hair. So yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, so but no,
I
that's
do.
where I'd be. Um So the other thing too is there's always one thing that happens when you hear that one song that is your jam.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
song is it that you have to sing along with when you hear it?
Well, this is the one that came to my mind is not, I don't know, but I gotta be honest with my truth. And I don't even know if you know this song, but it's called Glory of Love by Peter Cetera.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an 80s ballad, like power ballad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that is where I'm at.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know that
Glory of
song.
Love. Yeah.
It's a
I
good
am
song.
a man who will fight for your honor. Yeah, we don't have
Yeah.
to use that one, but that is oh
No, but
boy.
I love that song. It's you're funny. You're like, you probably don't know that. I'm like, try me. No, yeah, no. I'm the girl that listens to all sorts of music from those in the 80s, 70s, 60s to Viking ballads and stuff like that. So yeah.
Sure.
And so yeah, I'm probably
Eclectic.
yes,
Great.
very much so. Again, fun and interesting, and why not? So, but that is definitely a good song. I will find a YouTube video for it and put it in there so people that may not have heard it will now hear it and get a song stuck in their brain, in the ear, and have an earworm.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, "Damn it, Benjamin, it's all your fault." And I'm like, at least it was a good song.
Correct. It's a very romantic song.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
you know.
Mm-hmm. So why not? It's a good
Hmm.
song. What is your favorite word?
um wow. What is my favorite word? Uh, hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I like words. I like words. So this one feels tough. So I'm not gonna make it precious. The one that um came to my mind that I really liked when I was in college was Weltschmerz. Weltschmerz,
What is
which
that?
means world weariness.
Mm,
Weltschmerz.
nice.
But that's not, I mean, it's not originally an English word, but
Doesn't matter. It's a word. I didn't say it had to be an English word.
thank you. Thank you.
You're good. I got you. Well, here's another a bit more specific. What is your favorite curse word?
Okay. Okay. So I'll give you a little backstory about this one. I grew up in a pretty religious Methodist household. My grandfather was a minister and other side, and on my father's side, there have been many ministers, and so both my parents were raised quite religiously,
Mm-hmm.
and I was raised to, fear everything, essentially, just fear it all, and not just God, but everything. And so I didn't growing up, even in high school, I did not drink, I did not curse, I did not do any drugs, I did not go to any parties, I did not have any sex. I did not watch The Simpsons or any cartoons or like South Park. We were for, forbidden
Mm-hmm.
from watching those things. So it was almost puritanical. And then I went to college. I came to New York and went to college, and it was like, what? And I had to actually went to drama school, and we had to curse. Like we had to curse. One of the first scene that I had to do, like the first week of drama school, I had to say fuck. And part of our like even in our speech class, we would do fuck you cupcake for like the for to produce certain the sound
Mm-hmm.
and the k, and for resonance in our what is it? What I was saying, like our palate, our hard palate is like ha ha fuck you and so we had to do fuck you cupcake, and I had a breakdown. I had like a panic attack where I had to leave the classroom because I didn't want to say fuck, because I felt like, oh, I'm gonna go to hell. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like my whole life is going to unravel if I have to. And everyone around me, all these kids were just casually saying like fuck, 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 and I was like, no, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. and then I moved through that, and now I curse all the time. But my favorite, we can change. Change is possible, kids.
Mm-hmm.
So my favorite curse word is, oh, after that build up, after that like introduction, and now I feel like I don't actually. Maybe it's fuck. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably fuck. Yeah.
Okay. It's very malleable in as to what it can be used from, because you can use it as a, you know, a verb, a noun, an adjective,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
exclamation. It's such a good
Mm-hmm.
word, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But I hear you. I didn't grow up in from a religious perspective, but like in my household we didn't curse at all. It was not done. It was frowned upon. It was also very not ladylike to be cursing. And
Right.
fast forward to high school, where I meet my best
Yeah.
friends at the time, and it's fuck every other word. So I'm like, fucking
Absolutely.
hey, yeah. Um, and I'm like, it is very much ladylike, and it shows a higher intelligence when you are fucking around and saying that word. So
Come on.
yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's also, again, it's just like the importance of like how you use it and when you use it, just to add it. When people use it just for the hell of it,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I'm going, dude, come up with another word, you know. But like fuckery,
Yes.
that's good. All their fuckery.
Yes. Systemic fuckery is still
Yes.
afoot.
Yes, it
Yes.
is. But yeah, you know, things you learn as you get older, and that you realize that, you know, some people, for some it's very big deals, and for others not so much, and it's okay, you
Yes.
know, and stuff
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
So yeah, it's important. Growth
Absolutely.
is important. We have reached the fun, well, more fun or whatever, depending on how you want to look at it, the game sections of our chats.
Ooh.
Yes. And this one is Two Truths and a Lie, where our guest tells us three things about themselves, of which, as the title suggests, two of them are actually truth and one is a lie. And we, and I like to say we because I like to believe that the listener is playing along with me. Otherwise, hello, is trying to figure out which is the lie. And then we go from there. So what are your three things you like to share?
Okay. 1. My first kiss was underwater. 2. I am a citizen of Barbados in the Caribbean. 3. I have metal rods and screws in my lower spine.
Damn. Okay. So kiss underwater, your first kiss is underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Citizenship, dual citizenship in Barbados in the
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean, or that you have rods in the lower spine.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that citizenship is the truth.
Wait, do I tell you?
I have to guess. Yes, we're gonna.
Okay.
This is where you guess, and then you get to say narration. Listen, otherwise, this is gonna be a very one of those dun dun dun.
I know.
You know. And now this is where we cut and go into commercial, and you're all gonna have to wait another 2 more weeks to figure out and have him answer you. They would kill me. They will figure out, and they're like, "What did Benjamin say?" All right, folks. Until next time.
You'll never know. You must come to my Instagram to find out.
Oh yes, see that's what you call a launch, people, where you get into launch and cross promotion for those that are not into marketing.
Yeah.
That was his plan all this time. When I send him the email and say, "Hey, we're gonna play a game called Two Truths and a Lie," he's like, "I'm gonna set this up for epicness." And have it match along with my Instagram launch.
That's right. That
Yeah.
is fully correct.
Yes, and they're gonna have this flock of people wanting to know, where's the link? We want to know now. Sly, you have to tell us. So
Okay.
I'm gonna
You're
figure
gonna
try
guess.
to yeah, I'm gonna guess. And so I think this the citizenship in Barbados is true. Yes.
Are you gonna go through all three of them, or?
Oh, good question. Maybe let's do that. Okay, so I think that one is true, and oh man, the other two are possible. Because you never know.
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
And that underwater thing is so on the romantic side of things.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna go with the first kiss underwater being false.
Okay. The first kiss underwater is true.
Okay. Good for you.
The Thank you. Thank you. Um the metal, specifically titanium rods and
Hmm.
screws in my spine are true. It was for severe scoliosis. Um, that was it's called adolescent
Hmm.
uh, idiopathic scoliosis, which means that there's no real reason behind it, or they don't know the source, which was idiopathic, and it started when I was an adolescent. And the falsity is that I'm a citizen in Barbados, because actually I'm a citizen of the Bahamas. I was born and raised in the Bahamas. So haha, which is also, why I had the underwater kiss, maybe.
I was
We
gonna
spend a
say
lot of
that.
time underwater.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's like fast time is hanging out by the water.
Right.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Usually I get it, but you mentioned about having that friend in the Bahamas and stuff like that. So I figured that maybe you had some dual citizenship around there, but you were the specifics is what's important, people. Specifics.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Devil's in the details.
It is, and sometimes that's how I realize that that's the lie, is because it's too specific.
Mm.
Like I had one guest say that they swam the English River, and they were specific as to what section it was. And I'm going, I've never been over there. I would not know where that is. So that's a lie. And they're like, yes, that's the truth. Like, all right, there you go. I was right because of the specifics. Yeah, sorry, I dropped my pen. But yeah, so cool. Okay, so again, you had their first kiss underwater. That's nice. Yeah, and the rods are and your spine are true. Okay, so now we learned a lot more from Benjamin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we go, can you tell us a little bit about what you're currently working on, if you can share, and what's coming out next for you?
Sure. I just worked on Falling at First Sight by Willow Winters, produced by One Night Stand Studios. I think that might have actually come out in March. It was really a short story, but really, really nice and sweet. And I am finishing up, and this should be out pretty soon, Loving Man by Bailey West, produced by Podium. And coming down the pike pretty soon are some titles by Riley Hart, by Stephanie Nicole Norris, and by Asia Monique. Some really exciting stuff. So, and all of those should be coming out before the fall.
Nice.
Yeah.
Exciting. I'll see about if I can grab those links and info for people to add to their to be listen list, because we like to do that, and add it to our calendars as to when they come out, because we do that too.
Thorough.
We know it's how we figure out what we're listening to next, and if we can start something depending on the duration of the title or not. It's how you figure out, okay, can I start this if Benjamin's going to come out with the book any moment now, kind of a thing.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Benjamin, for returning to this year's Audiobook Lovin Series. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And everyone, thank you for hanging out with us today. And we hope you've enjoyed this episode and the series as well. So until next time, happy listenings.
Take care.
The Audiobook Lovin podcast has special Patreon incentives. Join today to receive early access to podcast episodes, exclusive content with our guests, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobooklovin. Thank you for your support. Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Series, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. We hope you have enjoyed this episode as well as the series. We've included audio samples of our guests' work within the post for you to check out. please make sure to visit the main page, link within the post, to learn more about the series, the authors, and the narrators. Please consider leaving a review wherever you listen to this series if you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to follow us on our social media platforms and subscribe to the Viviana, Enchantress of Books newsletter. Until next time, happy listening. Audiobook Lovin hopes you've enjoyed this program.